George, we'll let you here with Patriots beat reporter Dakota Randall. It's now time for Week 9. The Commanders, everything looking ahead. That's what we heard today from the podium from the players. But you can't look to Sunday, even though they got rid of their two top edge rushers. Without looking to today, we were just at practice. No Trent Brown even shown during the media portion for a second straight day.
Yeah, and it's not surprising. If you saw him in the locker room like we did after that game on Sunday, he could barely walk. I mean, he was limping pretty bad. It looked like he got stepped on maybe by Cole Strange during one of those plays. And so, I mean, maybe he comes back to practice on Friday. Maybe he still plays Sunday. But at this point, he's missed the first couple of practices. It looks like a long shot. He did not look good over the weekend. And obviously, that's a big blow. I mean, we've talked about the offensive line all year for the Patriots. Now, of course, they get a little bit of a break with the Commanders trading Chase Young and Montez Sweat. That obviously helps them. But still, they need to be able to protect Mac Jones. Trent Brown is their best offensive tackle. And if he's not in there, it's going to make things all the more difficult.
Yeah, we've seen what Mike Onwenu did when he stepped into right tackle, fixed a lot of problems. I've said it since day one of minicamp, training camp at left tackle. Trent Brown's the linchpin to the success. You could lose Chase Young and Montez Sweat. That's still a skilled secondary. There's still two guys on the inside, and Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. It could spell a lot of problems for Mac Jones, who was taking a lot of coverage sacks last Sunday against the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Mac Jones is as responsible for some of the sacks as anybody else. But, I mean, you mentioned it with Trent Brown. Patriots offense is really a house of cards. And if he's the one that gets pulled out, I think the whole thing comes crumbling down. I think you can make things work at right tackle, and you can scheme things up around one hole at tackle. But that assumes that your other one is all right. If Trent Brown's out of there, I just don't know what they do. They elevate Connor McDermott, put him over on the left side. They put Vidarian Lowe over there. We've seen how that's looked. That hasn't been good. Doesn't look like Calvin Anderson's going to be back anytime soon. So, again, it's a huge loss if he can't go.
And a look ahead to Sunday, too. First game for the Patriots without Kendrick Bourne, clearly their best wide receiver. Big return at practice, Pharaoh Brown. Yes, he's a tight end 3 on this team.
King touchdown.
I like that
King touchdown
for Pharaoh Brown. But he's one of 4 players on the active roster with a receiving touchdown. Hunter Henry, Pharaoh Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Mike Gesicki. What does a return for Pharaoh to practice mean in a matchup with this Commanders defense?
I mean, it's big for the Patriots. I mean, he really is their second tight end. It's not Mike Gesicki. He is a receiver. Pharaoh Brown is their second tight end. And, I mean, he's been legitimately good this season, not in an ironic way, not just trying to be funny. I mean, he only has 7 catches, but he's got 170 yards. That's one off his career high, and they're all huge gains. I mean, almost all of his catches have been for 15 yards or more. He's been solid in the blocking game, especially in run blocking. So he's a legitimate piece of what they want to do on Sundays, and having him back definitely is a help to the offense, as you lose one of your most productive receiver in Kendrick Bourne.
A reminder, Kendrick Bourne done for the season with a knee injury. As you were saying for Trent Brown, it was ankle/knee on the injury report yesterday. We'll see when it comes out later today. Looking to Sunday, when you have this team out there, what we heard at the podium was Lawrence Guy and David Andrews speaking this morning. It was a lot of look-ahead talk where they say, hey, we own that we lost 6 games. We own that we looked terrible through 8 weeks, even though we have 2 wins, one being an upset over the Bills. But now it's like flip the page, 8 games down, 9 to go. What did you pick up from those 2 leaders on the defensive side and the offensive side when they spoke today?
Well, I think at the end of the day, they're saying the only thing they really can say. But they're also being truthful. I mean, listen, do I think the Patriots are going to make the playoffs? No. Do I think they're a bad team? Yes. However, there still is a path here, and I don't think they're as bad as they've looked. I mean, I think the schedule has played a huge part, and they've played almost all very good teams, and the injuries, you have to factor in the injuries. So I don't think they're quite as bad as they've looked. I don't think they're any good either. But with that said, it wouldn't surprise me here if they beat the Commanders, they beat the Colts, they beat the Giants, and all of a sudden you're 1 game under 500, and let's see how things look the rest of the way. I mean, maybe you get a game over 500. Maybe you get 1 game under 500. You save Bill Belichick's job. Mac Jones gets another look. I think all that stuff is on the table, but you have to beat the Commanders this weekend. We've been saying for a few weeks now, this is a must-win game. This is a must-win game. This is the true must-win game. If you go down, if you lose the Commanders and you're 2-7, that truly is it. We're not talking about a path to the playoffs. We're talking about a path just to respectability, and that includes a win this weekend. You have to win. If they don't, they're toast.
You read my mind. I was going to ask you what's the path there, but I agree with that. It is. It's just looking like a competitive team, piecing it together. You mentioned it too, though. It's towards Bill Belichick saving his job. I want to end it with this. You probably shared it on the Nesson Patriots podcast with you and Zach Cox, but I haven't spoken to you since. They don't do anything on the trade deadline. They don't sell the assets. They don't get draft picks in return. They keep the guys that could be free agents this offseason. What's your read and what's your reaction to the team making those decisions?
Well, listen, I think I'm fine with it if they sign those guys. Yeah. Like if you're not gonna trade these guys, you have to go. So you have to at least sign 2 of the 3 of Kyle Duggar, Josh Uche, Mike Onwenu. And, if you don't, it's complete malpractice and it's indefensible. So I can't rip them right now just because maybe the plan is to go sign those guys. I'm dubious that that's what they're going to do. But, as it stands right now, ultimately, if you're asking for my personal opinion, I would have traded them anyway because I think Kyle Duggar is overrated. I think Josh Uche does not fit in this defense. I think Mike Onwenu is a good player, but you just drafted 3 interior offensive linemen. So I think you could have gotten something for these guys. I'm not going to go down the comp pick free agency rabbit hole, but you can make the case that they needed to trade some of these guys to get anything for them because you're not going to get comp picks back if you go out and sign a lot of free agents. They have like $100 million in cap space. So I think on multiple levels, they needed to make some deals. And the only reason they didn't is because I think Belichick wants to, keep hope alive that they can get respectable here again. But again, I would say to what end? Is it to the playoffs or is it just to make your record look better than it really was? And I think ultimately they should have done these deals. But, I'll give them some leeway if they go out and sign these guys.
Maybe slowly chisel away at the Don Shula record. Who knows if he
seems like that's the priority. I don't at this point. I don't know what other conclusion you can draw.
I will say, though, I disagree. Kyle Duggar, not overrated. I think you saw what he did against Miami, open field tackling, forcing turnovers. He's a smart player, schemed into that interception, but he makes it happen.
He does, but he also had a coverage bust on that Jalen Waddle 31-yard touchdown that iced the game. Kyle Duggar makes splash plays, and I think he's a good player, but he also, he's responsible for a lot of big plays that happen in the secondary. He still has issues covering tight ends. I also always sort of go back to these GM and front office polls that come out before the season. And one of those, they said who were the best safeties in the NFL. And these are the top decision makers in the NFL. I think he was like 13th. People around here talk about him like that's a top 5 safety. You got to give him that kind of contract. And listen, I think he has that potential. I just don't think we've seen it yet on a consistent basis.
On the Josh Uche, I'm with you on that one. Was practicing today. We'll see if he gets a go this Sunday. Big game for the Pats. If they drop against the Commanders, it's the Colts in Germany. You'll be there.
No, I won't.
Oh.
No, it's the one I'm not traveling to this year, but Zach Cox will be there.
Okay.
He'll give you full coverage from out in Frankfurt. No, I'll be at home, staying warm.
All right. Not bad. Zach, enjoy Germany. Dak, I'll see you this Sunday for the Commanders. Thanks so much for taking the time. Make sure to stay locked in. NESN YouTube, NESN360, NESN.com for full coverage from them and us all throughout this week. PNC Bank, helping to make banking easier.